Hello and welcome to Supreme Commander Forged Alliance. This will be a first video of hopefully a series of videos discussing the back build, and in this one we're going to focus on SC account, the one half of the current Seton stack. The other half is also present, Galactic Fear. And just going to slow it down at first. We're going to focus on the build order of this back player. This is as good as it gets currently, and the other videos will show how good it got before. And one thing I'd like to request for people, if you have a good idea, say for early 2003, I want to do a video for Root, who did the crazy things about breaking up the trees. In this one, it's the opposite. Actually, looking at the recent Zlo video, found out just how crazy it is. I hadn't played Setons back in a long time. I wasn't even aware how crazy it is, but that does affect the build. We'll talk about that. But I also want to take it further back to 2012, 2011, 2009, 2010. Players like VIP, Cytheria, Berg back in the day, and even go as far back as Mapman back in 2007, 2008. So if people have good replays, send them my way. Maybe I'll make 6 or 7 videos. They won't be too long, about as long as this one. Maybe this one will be longer than the rest. And I don't want to look through this entire game. This game is actually pretty awesome, but it's like an hour and a half. I have no idea if it desyncs or not, and I have no idea who wins. But we got Dim here. We got all kinds of great players. But focusing on this build, so currently you can see no pigeons from SC account. He is going to utilize a number of things. You can see now he did a manual reclaim, took that entire chunk of trees. You see the power that he reclaims is going to be quite massive in this. You see a lot of manual reclaim. That's something you can do. And the position of the ACU, really, the position of the ACU is going to be critical, and your build capacity in general. The theme with both this reclaim of the trees and engie mod is that you don't need nearly as much build capacity as in the past. For people who play back, they'll see just the build capacity is so little now. And one of the reasons is that if you can reclaim trees in chunks, you... and actually there's the third factor there, that the power to mass ratio for ASF is so high that you can't even utilize all your build capacity. You don't need 200 planes at 15 minutes. You can use 120. So the amount of factories and engineers you build at first is going to be very little. And here... yes, I also want to mention mid here, but very critical thing. This is very telling. You can see how SC account is not going across this chunk of trees. He's going around. And also, he's going to be utilizing the factory attack move here quite a bit. He'll be putting engineers in different places where they haven't broken up the tree chunk. So this is the opposite. This is after the fix, where in the past, where you run and broke up the trees, you can get more mass out slower. And that's where the build capacity was absolutely maximized. When we do the root, you'll see just how crazy it was. And you can see here, very minimal build capacity. Just engineers out, 3 engineers out to the field, but already getting a mass extractor. So instead of putting mass into trees and power generators, SC account is putting mass into tech to mass extractors. So this is where it'd be really nice to get that boost. Now, very quickly, I want to talk about the mid position. So when you're mid, you're about to get to about 14,000 total mass. Both players sending an engineer and an ACU. This is standard now. It's absolutely critical. This is actually less mass than it was before. About a year ago, or maybe even more. This got diminished because these chunks of mass got nerfed because of the water reclaim. So in the past, there was actually even more mass. Now you can see these tanks that ASBO invested in were going to be critical. They'll deny that engineer. But when you're in mid, what you get is you get a whole bunch of mass that you can give to your other allies. And you're basically in a position where you have a whole bunch of money that you can't use. When you have a bunch of money that you can't use, you got to find somebody to invest in to get good returns. And this is where actually manual donation to one player who would be ready with a whole bunch of power and build capacity would be ideal. People don't usually do that, and they'll just let it spill over. This is where now SC account is going to get a pretty big boost for Ezekiel. You can see all that mass coming in. That's from the mid player. So here we have basically this investor who got himself a whole bunch of mass. he's spreading the wealth. That's the idea of the mid position. That's basically all they need to do. They can leave after this as long as they put up a good enough fight in the mid. You can see Seton actually getting a little more power here as well, but he's also upgrading his second tech to mass extractor. You can already see this is only past minute 3. He already has a tech to mass extractor. He hasn't even built all of his tech 1s yet. And that's the idea here. And the second thing you might notice is that he's got a hydro and only a few PGens. This is very low power. He's already reclaimed 4,000. He would be negative 3,000 right now if he wasn't reclaiming. And notice that he has so little engineers actually reclaiming. Is most of that reclaim from was from manual reclaim here in the middle. You can see he's going to have proxy factories here. And we'll speed it up again. Put it back up to 0. But really, some of the key things are besides that reclaim is the way he arranges the build capacity. It's minimal build capacity, but it's very localized, so he gets his units very quickly. And here, once again, you can see he's going to use his ACU, move over just enough, and he's going to maximize his build capacity on a single mass extractor. So he's going to get that very quickly. He's going to take that 800 mass. He's just going to throw it down into this Tech 1 mass extractor, get a Tech 2. If he were to do it with multiple, is actually getting the others as well, he would have much bigger power problems that he does have now. And you can see this power. It's going up rapidly from reclaim. He doesn't have too many engineers reclaiming. But you can see this single factory that's producing engineer. This is a key position. Here's another key position. From a factory attack move, we can get really far. And the way it's reclaiming is reclaiming big chunks of trees at a time. That's much more efficient than just getting a single tree at a time, especially after the recent nerf. And that's one of the things that happened. Just getting more engineers reclaiming broken up trees doesn't really help. It's much more efficient to get a single engineer to reclaim a whole bunch of unbroken trees. That's the balance of trees. Yeah, so you see the forests of Seton's Clutch. Famous forests where people dream of build orders. And then balances change and things change. So much depends on these trees. Yeah, some of the greatest trees in the history of real-time strategies. But I guess I digress here. You can see SC account now getting a whole bunch of tech to mass extractors. Once again, it's not too many factories, not too many engineers. You can actually see how many he has here. Got minute 5. Relatively low, 17. I mean, that's absolutely ridiculous. That's like 2007 levels. And that's the crazy thing that has happened recently with that nerf of the trees. Or not really nerf, it's really a big change in the way they're utilized. What else did I want to say? Yeah, once again, I want to mention people should I want to get a really good replay for Root when he was running through all these trees, breaking them up, because that was the absolute opposite of this. Once again here, yeah, we really want to focus on SC account. The way he positions his build capacity, still led by his ACU, is now going Tech 2. Still not too many power generators, but you can see the power income that he has is absolutely massive. This is 14 PGens. That's 300 power right there, plus ACU, 300 power, plus Hydro, that's 400 power. This is not what you're seeing right here. He's getting like twice as much because of the trees, with very little engineers. Although here, this is also a pretty good place. A lot of unbroken trees. Unbroken trees here. Here's another place. So you really got to focus on where are the places where there's no original trees and throw down engineer attack moves. So now we got the Tech 2 engineer coming out from SC account. And this Tech 2 engineer, the great thing about not having to build a lot of factories, there's so much more space. So you can really utilize how you put your build capacity. This is very different from when Root had to do all those tricks where you would build a shitload of factories, a shitload of engineers. You'd have to make your Tech 2 engineer somewhere far away, where you can micro this Tech 2 engie. But SC account now going to Tech 2 power, he's going to maximize the build capacity. He's going to utilize as much of his mass as he can at once. And all these small things are absolutely critical. They make a huge difference because this is overall an exponential economy. I know people want to argue about that. Of course, it's not, but it's a good approximation. But when you have that, the earlier you get an investment, the earlier you get something, the bigger effect that it has. So now that we have the second Tech 2 power generator has been spawned, SC count is doing something else, but he is, when he's upgrading his Tech 1 mass extractors, you can see he's upgraded everything to Tech 2 around here. Even though he's making a whole bunch of excess mass, he doesn't begin upgrading until he has a whole bunch of build capacity. So he's got a bunch of build capacity, then he'll start upgrading. He doesn't just double click on that and say upgrade, because then you can get yourself in no better trouble. It takes planning of where you got your engineers to make this very efficient. Second Tech 2 power generator is in. You can see Tech 1 PGens being recycled just to maximize efficiency. Third Tech 2 power generator. This is where Seton will start his resource allocation. Extremely early resource allocation here. 7:30. He has just begun it, and that's because he's got all that excess power. So I imagine he'll probably unpause that here shortly, because he is wasting about 1,000 power at this point. So yeah, he's got Tech 2 mass extractors. I anticipate that he'll get these other two. He'll get his oh yeah, I guess that wasn't his now he's starting his resource allocation. He would have probably started that a little earlier, but he will get his third Tech 2 power generator. This is a bit reminiscent of early resource allocation rushes, where you do it with 3 versus 4 Tech 2 PGens. This is back in 2011, 2010, when people used to do that. You can get both your resource allocations by minute 10. You're in good shape. You can either do 3 or 2. Berg used to do it with 6 because he wanted to get a little more air out, but now that's basically impossible with air being so much more expensive. In terms of power, you just get your resource allocation, forget about ASF for a while. But we do see some swift ones from SC count. This SC count will now prepare one of his mass extractors. Notice a lot of times people will get start putting mass storages very early around their mass extractors. When you don't have too many engineers, it's actually good to prepare what SC count has done here. He's got one mass extractor here ready to go to Tech 3 with a bunch of build capacity standing by, and he's got another one. So what this means is that once he gets this resource allocation, he can take this 3,000 power that's sitting in these 3 structures, recycle it, and convert them into a Tech 3 mass extractor. Do that fairly rapidly. So you can see how far SC count is ahead of everybody else. Well, Gala, the second half of the stack. If somebody wanted to do this type of videos on rocks, Gala would definitely be a player to look at. Ridiculous economies. But you can see Setons here. It's not really about playing the game. It's about knowing a couple tricks and then having very good planning and executing that plan, and knowing the current state of a balance. Because if you tried to play like in 2011 right now, you'd be absolutely screwed. So SC count almost finished. Looks like the mid player here from this side doing quite well. Just a little more reclaim. So SC count has just finished his resource allocation. You can see immediately he will recycle. He'll just self-destruct these, and he'll convert that mass that he's getting from the reclamation directly into Tech 3 mass extractor. And the second resource allocation going up for SC count. Still on Tech 2 air here, minute 10. A lot of scouts. If he wants to anticipate any kind of crazy things that might happen, he can get an emergency swift wind if he spots a transport, and a massive drop from Gala. And that's the effect here. He got a very quick Tech 3 mass extractor when he is about to get second resource allocation. Still just making scouts. This will be the second Tech 3 mass extractor, although it looks like the build capacity sort of wandered off. And he does have some engineers standing by at different places where he's going to start making mass storages. So from this point, I will speed it up a little bit. SC account will get a second resource allocation a little after 11, about 11:20. Next part will be going to Tech 3 Air, because now he'll actually have the power to make it. It's as expensive now as it ever was. You can see most of the trees are gone. The total reclaim, we got to include the recycling here, about 3,000 massive recycling, so about 7,000 total reclaim. So that's a little less than what you would typically get. And if you were from trees, which was about 10,000, if you got all the trees. And when you would break them up, you get even more. You get like 20,000 mass. So the total amount of mass that you get from trees isn't that much, but you can get it very quickly with very little engineers. Another thing to look at here, minute 12, the number of engineers that SC account has is actually quite low. This is very low for setons at this point. This is what you typically have just on the air factory at this time for the last 3 years until the recent change. And now here's a second very big difference. You can see SC account going straight to SF. No Tech 3 engineer from this, because that was always a pain to get the Tech 3 engie out. He'll utilize the fact that we're now in engie mod, so the secondary factory, which we have here, is much cheaper, and he will make a Tech 3 engineer out of this factory. You can see he's going to make 4 Tech 3 engies, and then he'll probably make spam from this factory as well. Scouts, more Tech 3 mass extractors coming up. You can see how he now has everything mass capped, coming up minute 14, and now it's all the excess mass that he has will go into producing Tech 3 mass extractor. Notice how he's balancing the power. He's only running on resource allocation at this point, and he's pausing a lot of this build capacity. So he's actually producing ASF with very few engineers, which means he actually doesn't have that much ASF. He has 10 ASF at minute 14. That's very different from some of the other things that we'll see. So now we have the Tech 3 engineers. They'll put up another Tech 3 power generator, most likely after he gets some more Tech 3 mass extractors. He's really utilizing the pausing here, which is nice, where you basically don't build many things at once. You focus on a project, you finish it, then you switch to a different project. That's what you do when you're an eco whore. That's ideal. 14 SF, minute 15. So here, if VIP was, for example, playing him or someone like that, back in 2011, VIP at this time would have something like 60 or 70 SF. He just win air, and then he make bombers and bomb them, and he'd die. But this is 2013. It's different. 1 Tech 3 power generator finished. See, very minimal power. Another thing that's helping here for SC account is that Gala is sitting at plus 4,000 power. He's utilizing quite a bit of it, but there's 1,000 spill. Hawk also, yeah, he's got a lot of resource. Well, I guess he's getting yet another resource allocation here. He's getting his second. But when your side players get resource allocations, it really helps the back player from all the power spill. And now here, very interesting situation. One thing that you might not know about Tech 3 engineers, they can go straight to Tech 3 factories. And these cost about 1,000 mass for build capacity, which is equivalent to 16 Tech 1 engineers. And a Tech 1 engineer costs 52 mass. So you can see it's about 50% more efficient to make Tech 1 engineers. Well, it depends what you divide by what. You can either call it 50 or about 33 or whatever. But if you go straight to Tech 3, you don't have to incur the cost of making a Tech 1 and Tech 2 factories, which puts in another 500 mass. So you go straight to Tech 3, and also utilizing the adjacency. So these use up a little less power. See, minus 1,000 versus minus 1,400. That's because there's double adjacency. Then the one negative thing about this structure here is that a nuke will really make things bad for SC account. It's all very focused. And now at minute 18, it's really in that phase where 61 ASF, where SC account will actually start producing ASF on a rather massive scale. One thing to note, the standard thing known for a long time, the engineers have a factory attack move into this position, and then they're assisting a single engie that is assisting the factory.